Hi, this is Say Your Name, and you're listening to the FSF PopCast. By the way, I'm Brendan Wayne.
The show that took off its helmet and nobody cared. Sheesh. What's a podcaster got to do to become an apostate these days?
Oh boy. Our show is brought to you by our charity sponsor, the Red Shirt Widows and Orphans Fund, which supports the Wish Upon a Teen Foundation that helps out sick kids when they need it most. And just imagine the comfort you'll give Red Shirt crewman number 2187. He'll know that when he puts on the red shirt and joins the crew of the Enterprise in their struggle against the Empire, that he didn't leave his family destitute and without hope, because the Red Shirt Widows and Orphans Fund has his back, and what's left of his chain code.
All right, guys, our guest today is an amazing actor, although having famous family members in the entertainment industry, has struck out on his own and earned himself roles on TV shows and movies that, trust me, you love to watch. However, we're not going to mention any of those works produced by struck companies at this time. If you look him up, you can figure it out for yourself who exactly he is. But let's just say that Papa Pedro may be the voice, but Brendan and his buddy Lateef are the body. That's all I'm going to say. But we are so happy and excited to welcome Brendan Wayne to the FSF PopCast. Welcome to the show, Brendan.
Hey, thank you. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. I like that intro. I keep getting heat on this interweb thing about how I don't give Pedro enough credit. And I just want to abolish any of those thoughts. I'm literally so tired of it. I just have to delete things constantly. And I have somebody who does my social media, just general things like liking certain things. And they're like, they seriously are insane. I'm like, yeah, it's a little weird. But it's funny because we spoke about it together and he's like, look, I don't need you to promote me. Promote yourself. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I'm not a big fan of doing that. So this is all kind of new to me. But there's a lot of people who are a little soft-hearted and think that there's some kind of shade getting thrown, and there isn't. The last thing my buddy needs is for me to in any way pump him up. The guy is incredibly talented and incredibly gracious. So I'll just leave it at that. You're the first show I really kind of stuck to that. But I would point out that I was the only one who stood up publicly and said anything when there was heat on him in the media. I just want to know, and I got in trouble for doing it. So,
you know, if you're going to get in trouble for sticking up for your friend, then get in trouble for sticking up for your friend.
Absolutely
right. Yeah. And if you're going to hit somebody, make sure they don't get up.
There you go. Solid advice.
And I mean, especially when your friend is Pedro Pascal. I mean,
hey, I called him Papa Pedro for a reason. Space Daddy.
I mean nothing. I am happily married.
So, Brendan, in the intro, I'm going to get away from that to keep Kathleen happily married. But in the intro,
since my husband is our editor,
exactly. So in the intro, we mentioned that you have some famous relatives in the TV and movie industry. People like Loretta Young, Maureen O'Hara, and of course your grandfather, John Wayne, which, anytime we have an opportunity to talk about the Duke, we're going to take that. But it's not so much a question about the Duke. It's more of a question about Mr. Brendan Wayne. How did you go about setting yourself apart from your family name and legacy while still showing the love and respect to those who came before you?
I think my mom taught me from a young age that first, I'm not the Duke. So, whether I had cousins or friends or, I don't know, people who were very impressed with it and you tried to use it or leverage it, that was never going to be the way I went about it, because my mom had a heavy hand. And if you got caught trying to throw weight that wasn't yours, she let you know, that was unacceptable. Everything you did in life, you had to earn. So
awesome.
My path was mine. I didn't immediately go in the business. I did a lot of things. And then around, I think I was about 27, my mom, God bless her, sold 8 kids. She'd made it through. Not everybody, not one of us had gone into the business. And she was like, what are you doing? You're wasting away, and your future's not strong. What are you doing? I don't know. And you got to make a choice. You're too old to be standing around letting things come to you. It's just, it's not going to work. And I was like, to be honest with you, I think I want to be an actor. And it was like she did all 4 years of the presidency in that 10 seconds, and she aged, and she was like, oh, no, she was great. She said, hey, if you're going to do it, you need to be just like your whole life. Everything you did, you had to be better than the one next to you, because people expected more from you because of where you came from. Doesn't matter if it's fair. It doesn't, like, none of that matters. Like, we didn't have those kind of conversations where, like, is it fair? It was, this is what it is. So that's your responsibility, get it done. And so I went to theater school. I learned to dance and sing and fence and do all the traditional things that I would have eschewed. I'm positive that I wanted to be an actor always, but I think I had gotten an idea that I could get away with being an actor without really working at it. And going to school, my mom knew, was going to really demand my focus. And so that's what I did. And then I went to USC Film, and then came out and started working towards getting jobs. And I'd met my wife in that time, and she submitted me blindly. I wasn't part of the union, and blindly submitted me for a show that I booked. I went straight to producers, and it was crazy. And I booked it, and I was like, this is going to be easy. And then 5 years later, I'm like, I need to get another job because I haven't worked since then. But yeah, I mean, that's my path was always going to be, because my grandfather, that's a heck of a shadow, and two things worked in my favor, as far as business wise, not in my emotional favor. He had passed long before I really kind of put my roots down to go. And then also they'd stopped really making any Westerns. Right. So it wasn't like I was being asked, I wasn't getting the old handshake on the way in. So good to meet you, Mr. Wayne. And they walk you in, and then, it's not like that. It was more like, who are you? Okay.
Nice.
Oh, wait, your grandfather did something. And so most of the time, especially in this business where everything is just constantly, how can we get it cheaper? So any great casting directors, they very, very rarely stay because nobody wants to pay them. So they just keep renewing them. So I walked into a lot of fresh rooms, people my age who were like, yeah, I don't know what a John Wayne is, or things like that. Not a lot, but a few. And so it gave me freedom to just was and what I was, and I think for the reason why it took me so long to say I wanted to be an actor was because I didn't want to sully my grandfather and his what he means, like what it's like Ford used to say, when the legend becomes fact, you print the legend. And so what he represented was something far greater than even he could have hoped for. So I didn't want to mess with that. And then at the same time, you have your own fears of success or whatever, or of failure. I don't know which one, but with the strength and support of my wife and my friends, those moments where I might have been weak, they helped me. So how did I get here? I got here through my family and friends, and hopefully at the end of the day, my hard work and willingness have shown out and will continue to show what I want.
That's cool. I love it when we talk to actors who, because we've talked to many who have come up, with relatives in the industry, and it's always interesting to me because many have similar responses to what you said. Where it wasn't so, it was never about their family. It was about them wanting to do something for themselves, and the wantingness to have the satisfaction of having done it on their own, and having the satisfaction of having something earned, not something given. I've always thought that's I think that adds a different perspective to how you look at your career and your life and everything else. If you're looking at what you've earned instead of what you were given.
Yeah, and I think if you're, you know, if you have the right support system, I like to say raised well because I had a great mom who was unreal. My pop, did what he did, and I was raised in a way that made me accountable.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're held accountable, it's hard to be entitled. And so
Very true.
I think in a lot of ways to help myself, I had to become okay with being his grandson so that I could, it would be like the Carnegies, like somebody not going into business because, oh, we did that. And you don't do that. Like you have to embrace it outside of it. And then you have to look at your similarities that make you stronger and use them and go. And so the funny thing for me was, everybody talked about, he's not a great actor. Like a lot of people would. They didn't give him a lot of credit. And I used to buy into it. And then somebody asked me, what was he like to you? And I went, oh, he's a big, goofy, practical, joking guy. Oh my, yeah, no, he's a phenomenal actor. Yeah, could he get serious? I guess. Like when something would really, tick him off, I guess. I didn't see it often. And that whole, like, I don't know, that character that he played quite often, that stoic individual who had that rugged, individualism and desire to see everyone make their own choices and the greater good being more important than the selfish one. Those were all character traits of his, but when I hung out with him, he's the kind of guy, I've said this before on other interviews, but I find it to really illustrate who I knew versus what was represented. And he would saran wrap his toilet so that when us kids would go in there and we couldn't tell, and he would die laughing. Like, that's who I knew. And
Love
so
it.
then you go and see the man who shot Liberty Valance, and he's like Tom Dunn. I'm like, he's a mean cuss. But really, you find those things, and you find out that he really loved to physically find his characters. And I mean, that is the only way to go about it for me. That's how I can get to the emotion of anything. That's how I can define a movement. Where if you're not in a costume, best way I can say that, you can look at somebody and give them that look. Whereas
Very cool.
if you're a cowboy hat or something like that, there's something to that speaks to a different thing. And all of us who were raised by people who had to deal with us when we did something stupid, we understand that slow head turn and that moment of, oh, the light just hit me and I need to. So
I'm in trouble.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm a dead man. Yeah, I know that. I know that feeling well.
I had to find out that, because I wanted to, you go through these things as an actor, I believe, like who's studying their craft, and you look at different forms and different approaches. And my wife, again, brought me to an incredible coach. His name was Nikolai Guzov. He's out here. He coaches so many professionals that are off the chain good. This approach worked for me incredibly well. It wasn't like a method or you have your personalizations that just happen. Just like if we're talking and you're like, oh, I relate to his mom, telling him to be his own man. Okay, great. And then you move on, because otherwise you sit there and then I go away from the story. So like I learned that my job is to tell my character's part of the story. Director's job is to tell the whole story. So I try never to pull the blanket onto me. You jealous of Grogu? I joke around, but the kid, to me is the kid. And so when I have to, as an actor, present another character, I do it because that's part of my storytelling. So my process is always involving my physicality first, usually, and how does that affect everything else within the sphere of the story that the writer, the director, the producers, less the producers, because they're more about how much we're spending each day, and more about, like, how does lighting, the lighting really needs me to hit right in here. And so how do I support Jeff? And then how does Simon, want me framed in the shot, or Chris Murphy, or, Baz, or Greg Fraser? Like, these guys want to, this is where it is. And the grips, they got to move this dolly so I can walk. And they can be like, you can see the guy just dogging it. And he's like, no, I got you. And that guy will run through a wall. But is there a way that we can work better?
Mhm.
Oh, okay. And so when you find these moments, people think, oh, they just sat in their trailer and created this guy. And it's not circumstance, the grips, the lighting, the ADs, Kim Richards. She's my heart. She's my AD always, pretty much. Jason Kemp. These guys, they come in and all these elements, VFX, Justin, Jason, all those guys, they come in. And to me, it's if we do something, you're going to love it. There's just no two ways about it. We can overcome weak story points if we're all doing in this moment what we want to do creatively as well as basic. And so I watch, the dolly's got to move at this pace. Well, I got to move at that pace. And all of a sudden, somebody's like, wow, that's super swagger right there. And you go, oh, ha. So that's how my grandfather gets into his walk. They're like, you can walk as fast as you do at 6'5", Duke. And you're going to be in it for a half a second. Or you can slow that walk down and you can stay in the show for another minute. And all of a sudden you see his hips are doing this.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden somebody's like, wow, that character's really got a kind of feel to him. I like it. And it's funny when I say embrace your roots. I never intended, people are like, oh, he walks just like his grandpa. Like, I don't practice that. That's the furthest thing I ever did. If you see me walk around right now, I'm going to walk at 100 miles an hour and you'll never see it. But if you tell me I got to slow down, I can't even help it.
Right.
Just the way it is.
It just happens that way.
Yeah.
My son, my oldest boy, he's the spitting image of my father-in-law. Like,
oh, yeah.
When you look at pictures of them at a certain age, it's almost mirror to mirror. And then his movements and the way he does things are very much like my father-in-law. And it's not like Parker tried to do those things. They just came naturally. So I get what you're saying about the walk. It's like he'll go to move something or do something. And I'm just like, oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah. You're like, I'm with my, father-in-law.
Yeah.
It's funny talking about your physicality going from, I mean, you not only incorporated that sort of Western style from your grandpa into a space Western that we're not naming, but anyway.
I mean, that was intended. Which
is awesome. And it works really well. But you also kind of took some styles from Yul Brynner. You mentioned this in a recent interview with All New Nerds, that Yul Brynner and even some Arnold Schwarzenegger, but also elements of kabuki into your acting roles. So what did you come to appreciate about kabuki?
Well, first, the simplicity of everything. And it's a lot like Samurai, who I'm a big fan of Dave Filoni. I don't know if you guys know who that is. But,
might have heard of him.
I've heard his name once or twice.
Yeah,
or as I like to refer to him as the Holy Filoni. But yes.
I call him the Filoni Baloney, but that's fine. No, honestly, he's incredible with obviously his art. Was Samurai, and understanding who you're dealing with John and Dave. You have to do your homework when you're working with people. I don't care who it is. Hey, what have they worked on? What have I really enjoyed that they did? And how do I get them to incorporate that same greatness within what I want to accomplish? And so I look into I'd worked with John on Cowboys and Aliens, but with Dave, for me, it was all new. And then you find out what a regular guy he is, very approachable, very collaborative, and really kind. How does that work to benefit us and the storytelling? And so you find that he loves samurai, and Kabuki is much like the samurai in the sense that every reaction movement has to have a meaning.
Mm-hmm.
So if you go like this, you're saying yes, no, this is a big no, you know what I mean? Like you see these things and they look so exaggerated, and then you do something that masks, and this has a different feel to it, right? As an artist, I've found that if I can allow you to experience what I'm doing and define it individually, then I've done something. I've really done something, because I've connected to you in a way that benefits us both. I'm still trying to tell the story, but I'm not telling the story and you want to be me. I'm telling the story and you are me.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter. Like I have fans who are girls, boys, it doesn't matter. Because of the outfit in Kabuki, right? You're able to be anything. And so your audience can experience through you the story personally, versus you're telling me I should be sad here. You're telling me I should feel scared here. There's a moment and it's whatever it is. And because there's none of this, you're able to relate regardless of who you are and take the journey in a much different way. And that's, I hoped that would be the experience. People used to talk about, everyone, wanted to be your grandfather, blah, blah, blah. And it's incredible and it's very cool. And it's the idea of and principles that he personified so many ways are amazing, and it should be applauded. I wanted something that allowed you to feel capable of being. Mm-hmm. He's more like Batman in the sense that you could be a man in that costume, mm-hmm. or a woman. That was the best way I could say it without saying it.
Oh yeah, no, I am.
No, we picked up what you were laying down. All good.
Yeah, but that is one of the amazing things about the character that shall not be named in the costume that we are not talking about, is you do feel all of that emotion. Like it comes through. You do feel that character very, very well.
Yeah.
And that's a testament to those who got it there. And I don't mean, I definitely mean the writer. I mm-hmm. definitely mean everybody that you don't see.
Oh,
and
yeah,
I don't
sure.
think they're talked about enough. I know we like to talk about quarterbacks, and we like to talk about the flashy receiver, maybe the Hall of Fame running back. But the reality is you have nothing to watch or enjoy without those men and women in the trenches who day in, day out, 2 hours before me, well, not me, because I get there earlier, and 2 hours after me, which is true because I get the hell out of there, are making sure that everything you're seeing that day, the next day, is perfect. And it's everything to them. And I work with the greatest crew on earth, and it's because they are valued and because they love what they do and they're incredibly excited to do it. And now if we can just compensate them for what they do, because I'm telling you, like, we love the faces, and I get it. That's what there's no problem with that. I understand it, but it's like celebrating the learner and forgetting that there was a teacher there. And we can get to reincorporating those ideas in our heads, then those who want to be in the 1%, the alpha omega speeches that we hear constantly, or I do because I coach a high school team, then those kids who are the future will understand the value of what's presently in their lives.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I look to my crew mates and know that, hey, look, and walk through that door. Anybody can walk through that door. That's even higher than the A-listers, you know, the greatest space daddy, you know, he walks through the door. It makes a difference.
Right.
But we're nothing without them. If I don't walk into, God, it kills me that I can't say these names. But these places that we grew up with in our childhood that helped form who we were through the magic of George, and the mythology of, you know, Joseph Campbell and those things.
Mm-hmm.
If we don't have those pieces, it's not as interesting. I've seen the version of me cosplaying, walking down the street and sleeping in a cardboard box. I'm not watching it. It's compelling and it's emotional, but it's nothing without the environment that is created by more than one. And all those crew members, you know who you are. Without you, we got nothing.
And now, a word from our show sponsor, Level Up Sabers. Their link can be found in the show notes.
Well, let's follow up that statement though with a question about what's going on right now.
Yeah.
Because let's talk about it, because a lot of people out there don't understand why writers and actors are striking. There's a lot at stake right now in Hollywood, especially if, you know, it's huge. You know, because we've had to, you know, as a podcast, we've had to taken it upon ourselves to sit down and learn about what's going on and why you guys are striking and so, yeah, we get it. We understand it. And we support what you guys are doing. And we want you guys to be successful because we want to see real faces, real actors, real people doing this, not AI. I want to see real human emotion and real human sentences. You know, I've tried a few things out on Chat GPT and, you know, and that's not how people talk. It's interesting, it's fun and everything, and I'm sure AI has its place, but for those who aren't familiar with,
but
you know, go
where
ahead.
do we, you know, the beginning and the end of it is my it's not even fear because I have knowledge of it. I can tell you right now, the show I'm currently working with, I've been scanned. I've been if there's something that we're fighting for right now, it's already been done to me. And you look at my grandfather, for example.
Sure.
So we go into AI, right? Let's go make a movie. Let's, you know, go make a movie with John Wayne. It's possible. And you could probably pull it off and we'd probably get people there. But what is the intention of it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Because it is purely capitalistic and not in the altruistic version of it, the one that we wanted as a nation, but the greed kind, because unless we're doing it because we believe we've captured the essence of my grandfather, we lose the value of my grandfather, which was, he was real. He was human. All his characters made mistakes. Like people talk about the anti-hero and Eastwood being the anti-hero in this way that no one had ever seen. And it's not true. Go look at Man Who Shot Liberty Valance. Go watch The Searchers. Go watch Red River. This is a flawed man, and that's why people related to him. It wasn't because he was perfect. It was because he made the hard choice and the choice for the betterment of those around him versus just himself in those roles, in spite of flaws he was, known for, whatever it was, whether it was McClintock, which is hilarious, North to Alaska, any of these things, he represented a real human being rather than the one that came before him, the Western style that came before him, which was the white hat wearing cowboy. And so we take that, we give it to AI, and we lose the human quality. We can pattern it, and I'm sure eventually it can find it in a way that's almost seamless. But the great thing about the human condition is that while we are prepared for responses, quite often those responses are not what we have prepared for. And if you have kids, you know what that is. Like you're like, and I can remember so many things I did that I was like, oh, when mom finds out I'm a dead man. And then you go in and you're like, hey, so and you're just waiting for the fire and the brimstone. And she turns to you and she's like, look, wasn't the best choice. And now you got to do the right. And you're like, who's this woman?
I'm alive.
Yeah, you're like, where's Medusa and the snakes? Because I was waiting for that. But yeah, I mean, like, so for me, what we're fighting for, to get back to the question, is we're fighting for the right to tell stories without losing the value that we create when we tell these stories. So you watch Pedro. There's no way you watch that fella and think, yeah, we could AI him.
Nope.
And it'll be, I mean, the only people who do are producers. And they go, yeah, we can follow that on an algorithm. There's no chance. He is incredibly talented. My grandfather, incredibly talented. There's just no way you get these kinds of performances that relate to you as an individual. And then we find out later on that it's not individuals that we were relating to. It was huge swaths of people. And then all of a sudden, we have a commonality in the audience that we didn't know we had. And what it creates is, like, nobody wants to talk directly about politics or religion,
right?
Because it's just too brutal. Like the way people respond, especially now, there's, I mean, knives, guns, everything comes out. And so what
that's the way to start a fight.
Yeah. And so what does storytelling allow us to do without that kind of thing? You look at some of the stories that I've done in the last 4 years and the mythology behind it, it marks along so many life trajectories, the Jewish people and their nomadic travel. Our US fighting, are we fighting, for this new thing in the face of tyranny? Is tyranny going to win out? Are they right? And it creates conversations that AI would never. AI is best used to dictate, like a dictator would, the subject, the matter, the emotion, and the path that we must all choose, which to me works against everything that we have built a foundation on. With all the flaws that we have, we are still capable of making the changes we need to make our world better because we have the freedom to do it. AI does not allow us that. It belittles, more than anything, all those people you see in a scene that are, walking around if we were in a space cantina and we only had principal actors, we would lose all that environment because those characters would have been scanned, and they'll take that and they'll add whatever they want, because eventually that's what's able to happen. You're you can put this thing on here and do this and bloop, and you go, right? And they'll take your scan once. So a guy who works, let's say, we got 72 days of filming and we have background artists or principal background, and they're in a scene. What normally would allow a bunch of people in the industry to work daily as well as earn their insurance at a more affordable rate, now only get one day, and they got to go find another show to do it until that bank of images is strong enough for the studios that they never need anybody. And then what do we lose? We lose humanity. It sounds so, I don't know, like huge what I'm saying, but it's true. Like we lose this. They'll have somebody, AI interview where okay, the people want to hear this. And this is the problem. It's with our, look, I have social media. I get it. It's my business. Understand it. I also have my personal that, I only deal with people I know kind of thing. And there's a value to it, but if we don't understand, and I have kids, so I talk about this daily with them. If we don't understand that whoever owns this piece, whatever we're working with, whether it's Threads, Twitter, whatever it is, they all have an agenda and an algorithm that feeds their agenda. And to think otherwise is so naive and so weak. I don't even understand. The idea that we would lose that thing we value so much. The idea behind our storytelling is to create this. So why would we want an algorithm to dictate anything to us? Because that's what they want. They want us, I want this, whatever it is, platform to be worth more than anything, because then I can hand money to my shareholders and things like that. I don't care about the product I put out at the end of the day, because I just want it to go up so I can charge advertising dollars, whatever it is, the monthly, whatever it is. And that's the drive. And that's what AI represents, which is the simplification of storytelling to the point where humans are useless. And there really is a 1% storyteller. And the more I've read about what we're fighting for and learned and been taught, the more I realize that this is a Teamster. This is IATSE. These are all the unions within my bailiwick, but also USPS, UPS. And it goes back to the idea that, do I buy from Amazon? Of course I do. I don't know how I would function otherwise. At the same time, I should find out more. And that's what I'm actually trying to do with my family, which is finding out where is my local ranch, and can I get, can I go over there? Can I raise cattle there like I used to? And then is there a butcher, or do I need to learn this? I know how to, strip and create my own meat if I needed to, but I have someone do it for me now, but my kids don't. And maybe I ought to teach them. And how do I locally farm? We actually grow carrots, and I'm not, the funny thing is, and I, in my ignorance of youth, I was like, my grandparents from Italy grew all their fruits and vegetables, and I'd be like, I'm gonna go to the store. Now I grow all my fruits and vegetables. They're all here. I have everything I need in California. The greatest climate that I can, so it's finding these things and finding mom and pop stores. How do we keep them alive? How do we keep their value? Because without them, you lose so much. I went to a comic book store in Pittsburgh this weekend, and there's a friend of mine, Steve Byrne, who was an incredible comic, hilarious, great dude. I went to this comic book store that he grew up riding his bike to with his friends. So did Ming-Na Wen, so did Dave Filoni, so did Mark Cuban, so did so many other great Pittsburgh people. And it was this incredible place that, if we don't honor it by walking through the doors. It's got 3 stories. It's got a music section with vinyl that had all the Clash records, because that's my heart and soul is the Clash. I always wanted to be a drummer.
Mhm.
I had to sing this weekend, by the way, you guys. That is a perishable skill, and I don't know that I was ever good at it, but I really did. I might have gone in thinking, I got this, and oh my God, I was awful. But that's a side note. But yeah, it's without those things, we lose so much. And so as what am I fighting for? I'm fighting for the right to perform. I'm fighting for the right to tell our stories, to tell stories that we chose in a way that represents us. There's no way AI will ever represent us. It'll only have an idea of our representation, and that's it. So I don't know. It's tough because I make a heck of a living doing what I do when I work, and the feast and famine. I can't explain that to the average Joe. They just don't see the 7 years where I don't work.
Mhm.
And so what I say is the best way to relate this to you is look at your job and ask yourself, could they teach a computer to do this? And who's going to fight for me when it comes time? Because it's coming. And I'm not I'm not wearing tinfoil and sitting in my, back house. I think it's a reasonable expectation to know that at the end of the day, if this goes through, my actual first love, after my mom made me go to the school for it, is theater. We're going to go back to some communal theater, and it's going to have to regrow and renew itself in some way if we allow this to proliferate in the way that we've allowed social media and algorithms to dominate our lives and our decisions and our thought processes. And if we don't, hit pause and listen to human podcasts like the FSF PopCast, I don't know what we're gonna lose more than you ever know. So, dig in, listen to FSF podcast, and let's go. Don't forget, we didn't get here in a electrical stream. We got here through humanity, and let's continue to relish humanity, stay responsible to each other, stay visible. If you see something, say something. Let's go.
Yeah.
Agreed. And I think too that on top of all that you have all those issues, and then you have the livable wage issues for guys. I saw an amazing stat, and I just want to bring this up just real quick. And I can't remember the actor's name, and I can see him. And this is really, really bad of me, but he was being interviewed on the street sidewalk while he was out striking, and somebody asked him about, why are actors striking? Don't you guys make enough money? He's like, some actors do. He's like, but the thing is that there's the writers and the workaday actors who are not making enough to cover their own mortgages, who aren't making enough to get on the SAG insurance and other things like that. And so to me, it was just he said something, I want to say it was either 83 or 87% of the working actors did not make enough to qualify. Yeah. And that just kind of blew my mind.
A couple things. You said insurance and you said mortgage, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. So until I worked on this recent show regularly, I bartended to put my kids through school. 25 years I bartended. I have no shame in it. There's nothing. I love doing it. I love bartending. And I will tell you right now, there was no way my kids wouldn't have eaten. There's just no way. You have to be multifaceted. And when with those dry spells, the 1% that's able to, continue to do as well as they have, they're fine. They get producer credits. So they're getting paid right now on another level. The one thing I would say, if we were back in 3-channel station, ABC, NBC, CBS. And we had broadcast, and that was it. And I was working like I am. There is no way I could complain. And that's what is being represented as where we're coming from as actors, as a union, as a writer, or otherwise. I think the writers have always been picked on, and whether it was in theater or in movies, they commonly get abused. But I will say this, the difference when they came into new media, which is streaming, and why don't they want to share their viewership, their subscriber list, how much there is? Because it'll be more than the viewers on broadcast television, which is where we would get paid, and residuals would. It is a completely different scale. I have made more in residuals, and let me explain what a residual is. It's what happens after the show or movie has aired, and then it re-airs. That is when you get, because there's still value, watch it. And so nobody misunderstands me that, hey, you got paid for that day's work. Yeah, they're continuing, much like my grandfather, they're continuing to use his likeness, image, storytelling ability in the movies he did. So they have to pay for that, right? That's a, it's like, oh, I one time worked as a bartender. So they took that thing and they're going to go and use it. They used me to build this thing, and now they're going to go use something else to do it. And I get nothing from that, even though it's my image and likeness. That seems pretty backwards to me. So that's what we're fighting for. And so with new media, they cut it to, I think it's like the best way I can represent this is, so I was in a film. You barely, you would have to know where I was and pause to see and hear me. So I made, and that was over 12 years ago. So as you go along, the percentage goes down of what you're getting. You're getting a smaller amount. It doesn't hold its value. So I've had 27-cent checks come to me from that. I made more from that last year than I did from the last 4 years working every day on every episode in residuals because of streaming new media. So 1 week on something I worked on over 12 years ago versus 4 years recently. That's what we're fighting for. So whether or not you like the amount of money, if you don't like the amount of money I make, stop buying the subscriptions, and they're going to have to charge less, make less, all those things. And I get it. Families have to do that. I'm saying do it. Do what's best for you. That's the only way you speak to these nameless, faceless things. Insurance, I'll tell you right now, 2 of my kids, I didn't qualify for insurance through SAG, so I had to pay for it out of pocket. So, yeah, it's brutal. It is. I'm telling you right now, it's brutal. But it was just as expensive as if I had paid monthly for my whole family. At that time, it was actually a little bit cheaper than if I just paid my monthly all year. Wow. So go figure. Luckily, we were healthy that year.
Yeah. Oh, goodness.
Yeah, but that's what we do. Now, it's not a woe is me. I'm capable of doing other things. So I'm not sitting in the corner pouting and crying, but I am speaking to the power that is the studios. That is, those people. I mean, think about this. This is another thing. Back in the day, and we, especially anybody who from my generation, X that is, and we used to see people build careers as actors from guest star roles. They could do some TV as guest stars and then either go onto the big screen or the TV, and there was a separation, but you were able to build a career through that. Now you have the Jon Favreaus doing the guest roles, the Brad Pitts, and it's unfortunate for the lunch pail actors because we're fighting for the co-star role, which is a lot a lot harder to build a career off of. And, there's still, and was, I think, a more recent time, if you had following on social media, you could get roles regardless of if you were an actor or not. And that was all studio saying, hey, we want you to bring your audience into here, even though it has nothing to do with this. Now, I get stars like Pedro driving a movie or a show because he brings people to his storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
He has perfected and continues to perfect his craft. Being famous because you ate slime. I'm trying to be so PG right now.
You're doing great.
It burns my butt, and I'll tell you, I think we ought to reevaluate a lot of things, and understand that the person next door to me, next to me, needs to be as important as anything, because without that strength together,
right,
we're individuals and we get beat by everything.
Yeah. So talking about the humanity aspect of your work, you actually have also an incredible thing that you work with, the John Wayne Cancer Foundation, which is incredible. And my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer in November of 2019, December 2019.
Yeah.
Had surgery January 2020. Luckily is in full remission, which is fantastic. But I understand how big and scary cancer can be. I mean, my mom's was a very small localized tumor that was easily removed, easily radiated, but it's still
easily.
Easily.
Right now, your mom's a damn warrior.
She is.
That kind of stuff ain't easy. And the more, when you get, there's even just put sunscreen on everybody. Anybody who's out there, I'm just going to say that right away. Put it on your face. Because you get a little, whatever mark, and someone's like, hey, that's, cancerous. I don't care if they say it's non-killing, whatever, it's malignant.
Still cancer.
It gets here, and you start to think about, well, what ifs?
Yeah.
Where am I? Or how's my family? What are they going to do? You can't, and then you never release that. That's always with you. I know from my experience. I spent 42 days in a hospital. I died a couple times on the table, and I had no idea if I was ever gonna get back. For me, when the fact that my grandfather had the foresight, when at UCLA at the time with Dr. Donald Morton, who's a pioneer in cancer research, he looked at his kids, my mom and aunts and uncles, and said, hey, I want you to give this doctor whatever he needs, and we'll use my name if it'll help him, but we got to raise money for this guy. And you go, I remember being on my deathbed. I worried about my family. He was worried about the world. He wanted to eradicate cancer. And so that's what and I'm proud to be their nieces, nephews, and son. They went out and used his name to create the John Wayne Cancer Foundation. Donald Morton, led the charge. And then we had, Dr. Giuliani, Dr. Miles Corbett, who's out in South Carolina now doing research, Dr. Steve O'Day, who did immunoblasty, where they found out that, they've gotten to the point with their research and everything that we've learned is that if we can, without not actual steroids, but if we can put our immune system on steroids, there's very little that we as a body, we as humans can't defeat. And they have found, we had a young lady, I can't remember how old she was, but when they went in and looked at her, she had chronic pain and problems. Her body was 60, or it's probably more than that. I'm going to go low. It's 65% covered in tumors and late stage. 12 years later, at the John Wayne Odyssey Ball dinner, where we raised money, and spoke to us with her daughter next to her. And so when you are able to be a part of something that literally has so little to do with you, but you can take pride in knowing that your heritage helped, further, man, like, I'm sorry, like it's like being John Wayne's grandson. Maybe people don't enjoy it, but I think the majority enjoy it. And I think the idea of what he is to everybody can't help but make you proud, because I went to Morocco. I did a movie in Morocco, and it was war pick, and they had a bunch of extras who showed up with my trailer, and they were locals to Morocco, but we were in Ouarzazate, which is even further off. And I came out of my trailer, and the PA's like, Mr. Wayne, they want your autograph. And I was like, mine? There was Jessica Biel, Sam Jackson, 50 Cent, Chad Michael Murray. Like, they had so many bigger names. But these men and women loved John Wayne. They had posters of him. They had VHS tapes. This was not long ago. So VHS tapes, while I understand them, most of you have no idea what I'm talking about. Like, they had and I was like, why? And they're like, because he was his own man. He was free. He fought for freedom. He fought for the weak. Like, I heard all of it, and it was amazing. So when I know that I'm part of something that fought to allow people to live healthier, to live longer, I got an extra year out of my mom because of the greatness, and I mean unbelievable skill. We had to have a surgeon who came in and from Penn, who helped remove her initial tumor from smoking in her lung, and I got an extra year out of her where I had no right to think I was going to, because of the greatness of these men that we have supported through fundraising, through the name, through whatever we could, and will always. When I went into the hospital and they had to remove part of my intestine, it was one of the cancer doctors who called the doctor at the hospital and said, if you don't take care of this guy, you're going to have a problem. And
oh wow,
it was real nice to know that you had those kind of bullets in your gun. So yeah, I'm real lucky. I'll tell you this though, as long as it's on the up and up, I don't care what research you're doing, what eradication. I love to fight cancer because it is so prevalent and so preventable in so many ways. Eat clean, go buy from a butcher who's local if you can, all those things that we take for granted now, that when we were kids, we didn't even think about.
Sure.
Those kind of things can make a huge difference in your life.
yeah.
Now, that said, this past weekend, I went to help my buddy Steve Byrne, who did a fundraiser for the Lemieux Cancer Foundation. And I got to go, meet the Lemieux Foundation people, and it's Mario Lemieux, and they were unbelievable. Nancy is one of the greatest leaders over there at the Lemieux Foundation. And I had a great time, and they were incredibly gracious. They lied to me and told me my song and singing was good. But these are things that we should do. It's a tough one to talk about because nobody really likes to talk about downers like that. But there's so many success stories that even if one wins and we learn something from that one, then we've done something. So I am very proud to be a part of the John Wayne Cancer Foundation, to be part of the Lemieux Foundation, to be part of this amazing country that allows us to find ways to build each other up and support each other, and it doesn't demand it. We actually have to earn those things from each other rather than just you're born to it. And I love it. I love that. I love the coming together moments.
All right, so Brandon, we're at a point in the show where we like to end up things with a little bit of a silly question. Okay, so we've asked you a couple serious ones. So here's a silly one. You can answer this as serious or as silly as you choose. Now, I spent a little bit of time on your Twitter page, and I was kind of bouncing around and looking at a couple things, and we like to call it polite stalking or research. It's a pretty
Wait,
bowl of
what do you
research.
call it? What's the last one?
Research.
Yes, that's what my
Yes.
daughters call it too.
It's polite stalking. So yes. So it said something on the top of your page there. Find your ikigai, and I had to look up how to pronounce that because I'm very not Japanese. I don't know if you noticed that or not, but
Either.
yeah, exactly. Now it said what I found is that ikigai means that it's in Japanese, iki means life and gai means your value or worth. So it's about finding your purpose in life. So, Brendan Wayne, what is your ikigai?
So many. Sometimes I will say this, it can be as simple as your coffee in the morning, that's your happy, beautiful moment, and then it propels you through the day. And sometimes it can change, but being able to look at my wife and she's not mad at me.
I kind of identify with that a little too strongly this last couple of days. So.
I'm with you. Oh my God. Trust me. And it's not unwarranted. Let's not kid ourselves.
Oh no, I own it for sure.
Yeah, I mean, like I'm like, has she figured out what an imbecile I am yet? Oh no, okay, great. But being able
she just loves you anyway.
In spite of it, yes. To be able to do that and then hold hands and more, like right now, currently in my life, this is my everyday ikigai. Absolutely mortify one or all of my children at the same time, whether it's she looks at me and says, "Oh, daddy," and they're like, "Oh my God," and run out of the room, which it still gives me the creeps sometimes, but I love it because it crushes them. That's one of the greatest joys daily that I have. Or in the longer, bigger picture of things, I hope I find a way to use my storytelling ability to bring people together and to just laugh. We gotta laugh more, people. God.
Absolutely.
I really do.
Absolutely.
We have enjoyed our conversation with you so much tonight. And within the wonderful guidelines that are currently in existence because of the writers' strike, where can our viewers and our listeners go to find out more about you and potentially any work you have coming out that you can't mention?
Well, there's some productions that we're able to work with who are not part of the conglomerate. But right now, I'm still doing the conventions, and just, bring what you need signed, and I'll have something there that's less specific, but captures me. And it'll probably be worth more because it'll be the only time I offer that picture, is during that time period. I'm still going to go do them. Still going to go enjoy my time, honor my contracts. And in general, if you want to come and applaud me and support me, come out, find out the schedule for winter. It's Lady Lancers soccer at Grant High School in San Fernando Valley. And I'll be there. I'm there 5 days a week. But I'll be there. Our season starts beginning of November, and we'll go through February, and hopefully we'll make it past the second round, which is where we reached in my first year. And I intend to improve upon that greatly this year by supporting these young women and their success. So if you really do want, I'd prefer you come see me there than anywhere. And you can walk right in, it's free. And we'd love the support, and these young ladies would love to see that it mattered. So if you're in the area, come see us. And if you're not and you're out in the Great Granite State or Connecticut or Auckland or LA, you can come see me at the Comic-Con and find out, what's going on in the world.
Very cool.
Awesome. I will make sure
My
that
pleasure. Thank you for having me and taking the time, because this is the coolest part of the internet, AI, whatever, because I'm able to meet people that I otherwise wouldn't have the opportunity to, and talk about things that I my kids generally they don't even want to watch the show. So I'll tell you right now, yeah, they could care less, which is great. Their friends bother them enough about it.
I'm sure
it becomes this kind of, which is great for me because it allows them their individuality. So It's great. But
if it makes you feel any better, my daughter loves the show. So
I love it. That makes me feel incredible. Those kind of things. Like I literally have I get mail. I have pen pals from girls and boys who played characters on the show, especially in Plans recently.
Yeah.
And to me, that was one of the greatest things I was able to do, which was interact with my fellow actors, the younger ones, and we would play like rock, paper, scissors. When I turned 50, I brought a piñata and all the kids got to come and hit the piñata.
We actually had heard that story from Tate as well, which I thought was pretty cool. Yeah.
I'll be with Tate at Terrificon. So
awesome.
Very cool.
Yeah, me and Heavy T.
Tate was a trip. We enjoyed him.
He was a blast and a half to talk to.
He is interesting. Like
he's a cool dude.
You see him and you're like, all right, meathead, and then all of a sudden you're like, holy cow,
meathead has a brain
about this. Yeah, you're like, and like his love of what you have, so that he can look at his is, trust me, whatever you talk to him about, he has mulled that over 1 million times. He's going through and look like he is one of the most highly intelligent, because to me, intelligence is the ability to continue to learn, not to know everything.
Right.
Correct.
It's this evolution, like us physically, mentally, and he does it. And he's one of the most highly intelligent people I've met.
Yeah, you can tell he works real hard at learning more things and new things constantly.
Yeah.
So
he's not afraid of much.
No, that was also true. That we figured that out.
Nope.
All right, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. We want to remind everybody right now that subscribing is the single most important thing you can do to help our show continue to grow. So if you haven't already, click that button. Exactly. Do what Mr. Wayne is telling you to do, because doing that helps us to get more amazing guests like Brendan Wayne here, and to have funny moments and great moments for you guys to be able to listen to. So please subscribe. It helps out well more than we could ever really tell.
How about you subscribe, because these are people that represent us rather than the polished, and you see constantly on a set. Let's get these to the notoriety that they deserve, and let's honor those things, because we don't have enough of that. Let's go.
Love it. Thank you. But hey, guys, if for whatever reason you're unhappy with the content of our show today, please remember that you can lodge a complaint with the head of our complaint department. That, of course, is the Duke, the man, John Wayne himself.
Yeah.
And if you've ever watched one of anything that the Duke has ever been in, you realize that he's a no-nonsense type of guy. That, of course, is highly problematic for us, because we're mostly an all-nonsense type of show. In fact, nonsense may be the only sense that we have. So take pity on us lowly podcasters as you fill out that one single complaint form. We're certain that the Duke, or Mr. Wayne, as we will be so nicely calling him, as we, the offending party, lay quivering in a pool of our own I'm sorries, will quickly handle your complaints and possibly throw us into the river.
Oh boy, we're so doomed.
We're screwed. All right, guys, that's going to conclude us for the FSF PopCast. Goodbye.
Copyright 2023 FSF PopCast.
Reference to any specific product or entity mentioned on this podcast does not constitute an endorsement or recommendation by FSF PopCast. The views expressed by the guests are their own, and their appearance on the program does not imply an endorsement of them or any entity they represent. If you have any questions about this disclaimer, please contact us via email at info@fsfpopcast.com. Original music by Jordan Michaels.